Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Self-love through freedom and connection. So feel free to connect to the brave never fall on these social media platforms. If you find anything of value in this following podcast, hit that like button, subscribe and share, and support the Brave and Bold tribe, growing one purposeful soul at a time. There are no coincidences in life. The strength you have is real. Each breath you take is a blessing. Don't give up, give more. Believe in yourself and trust yourself. How are you feeling? Take a moment to do a self-check-in for yourself. How are you feeling mentally? How are you feeling emotionally? How are you feeling physically? How are you feeling spiritually? Are you feeling balanced? Are you still journeying on an intentional, purposeful path? How are you feeling? Balancing yourself is a healthy daily practice that will reliably keep you in harmony with your entire mind, body, heart, and soul. Clear your mind. Take a moment of silence for yourself right now in the moment. You are here now. How are you feeling? When we nurture others, others will nurture us. We want to be nurtured in life, just like we have an obligation to nurture those who are closest to us. The people we are obligated to nurture, the people we have to work with, to be in a leadership position, to help others advance and to grow and ascend, just as if we were those people. Because essentially, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. That is typically what most of us want. Can't speak for everyone, but most people want to be treated and comforted and supported and feel reassured that they are being led and they have the ability to lead. That is our birthright to do, if we choose to do it. Nurturing is not only a skill to some, but it just comes naturally to others, and it's also a choice by other people. You can be the greatest nurturer in the world and choose not to do it. You can be the worst nurturer in the world, but strive to be a great leader. So you learn as much as you can from someone who is a master at nurturing and having ownership and accountability of who they are, but also wanting to pass that along to people who are like-minded, people who they attract that are exactly like them. We mirror those who are like us. And being a nurturer is about answering the call to be a leader, to do what is requested of you, regardless if you want to do it or not. And that is our priority. It's linked to purpose. Are we born natural nurturers, or do we choose not to lead? Those are the questions we all can ask ourselves, and we can find that answer very quickly if we dive deep enough into that question. And if we are nurturers, who are we nurturing? Who are we leading? Who are we reassuring that we are giving our best selves to them, and we expect the exact same from them in return? Nurturer. Someone who nurtures others, offering food, protection, support, encouragement, or training, taking the role as a mentor and a guide. Some leaders are born, others are created. The leadership role, the head of the family, the moral compass of friendship, loyalty to the greater good of all that we care for, makes us all nurturers in some capacity. We get what we give. We mirror what we perceive. We honor what we respect. We nurture what we love. The true power of nurturing is the outcomes. We inadvertently influence others each day, regardless of our intent. Others see our actions, decisions, responses to challenges, our reactions to success. A nurturer is aware of this and is forced to take accountability and ownership over their actions, responses, reactions, and decisions. When we take ownership and accountability, others see we are answering the call to our responsibilities, that we perform well under pressure, stay positive under stress and duress, and this allows others to see we don't do things just for ourselves. We do it for them as well. We attract those who are like us. The people we are obligated to provide for, protect, nourish, and support expect us to nurture them. In return, we get nurtured by those who have the same role for us. It's a cycle. Nurturing is selfless. Its power lies in the outcomes, the positive, purposeful outcomes. Providing warmth, reassurance, appreciation, comfort, love, compassion, and understanding, patience, and commitment to those we nurture is, although not guaranteed, it's what we will get in return. Regardless, we must be leaders. We must set the ultimate positive, purposeful example of what a leader and nurturer is. For one or for many, we must answer the call and lead purposefully. Cincinnatus, Episode 7, Nurturer. This one is something that hits home hard with anyone, regardless if they want to be a nurturer or not. And one of the reasons why is because we all have lived a life of being nurtured by someone in some capacity. It doesn't really matter, regardless if you were growing up in a situation where you had money or no money, where you had leaders or no leaders, if you went to a good school district or a bad school district, if you went to church or you didn't go to church. We all have had some version, some type of nourishment and been nurtured by someone or many people, and it directly influenced the type of person that we are today. The awareness and taking that premise and looking into it and understanding who we are based on where our nurturing or lack thereof came from can help us in so many ways. It's a very therapeutic thing to do for yourself that costs no money at all. This is something to think about, because we can't do anything about it anyway. Depending on what age you are as an adult, you could be 21, you can be 71. We can look back in our lifetime and say, from the moment we were born to the day we die, someone or many people are offering nourishment, protection, encouragement, commitment, and understanding, and patience, and love, and reassuring us that when we have hard times and when we have great times, we have someone to share those experiences with. But the real question comes into, how do we perceive that knowledge that we have for ourselves? Because everyone's story, everyone's journey, everyone's path is different. So even in the same households, and anybody who has siblings, you know this, your mother may nurture your siblings completely different than they nurture you. Because you're you. You're unique, and you have a unique set of abilities, talents. Your values and your morals and your boundaries are different than your siblings. And then you're going to take that and expand it to the workplace, you can expand it to church, to school. The important thing is that it always goes back to you. Whether you are being nurtured or you're the nurturer, you have a role to play. And how you respond to being nurtured and how you respond and react to being a nurturer really comes down to, how good are your leadership skills? And are you forced into the leadership role, or was it by choice? Are you looking for the first chance to get out of that role, or are you looking to stay committed to it? And do you feel obligated to do certain things to nurture? Because that's another thing about nurturing, is that some feel that it's an obligation more than a choice. Like if you had the choice, if someone could say, hey, listen, you don't have to nurture your children, some people will cut and run. We see that all the time. It's a lack of commitment to leadership, to nurturing those that they gave life to. What responsibilities do we have with that? And to answer the call of life is not just about answering the call to yourself. It's also about answering the call for the people you're responsible for, the people that you have taken on and said, hey, I'm taking this role. I'm going to nurture you. I'm your nurturer. Whether you're a parent, mother, father, grandparents, pastor, teacher, professor, doctor, doesn't matter. If you choose to take on a leadership role, are you obligated to see it through no matter what? And we look at vows and weddings. If you say those vows, how seriously are you taking them? And were you basically practicing those vows before you even said those vows? Were those vows part of you before you even had to say them? Which is why you were comfortable saying the vows in the first place, because those vows are you when it comes to commitment and being a nurturer and being a partner and a leader. Same with children. If you bring a child into this world, aren't you obligated to do whatever it is unconditionally to make sure that you give that child the best chance possible of having a fulfilled, purposeful life? Because we play important roles, obviously. That child is growing. We have to be the leaders. But are we capable of leading if we're not even capable of leading our own lives in a positive, purposeful way? And that is always the question. How do we lead if we don't know how to lead ourselves? Well, then we have to dive a little deeper. What is the motivation to lead? What is the motivation to grow? What is the motivation to push past ourselves and our understanding of ourselves and start to take in others as far as motivation and understanding and learning from them? Which is why every life coach will tell you we need coaches. Because yes, it's about self-love, self-worth, self-discipline, but we also have to keep learning. There is no point where a life coach and I'll take me as an example, there is no point where I wake up in any day and feel like I don't need to learn anything today. I don't need to understand people a little better each day. I don't have to be focused and conscientious of who I am and how I respond and react in every situation. But just like discipline, the more you do something that you're more aligned with, that feels good and comfortable and purposeful in your life, you start to understand, okay, these things line up and I naturally lead in this area. I naturally nurture in this area. This person's more aligned with me, so I'm much more aligned with this person. So it's easy to do these things. But what happens when the conflict and the challenges and the disagreements start to come into play with people, places, and things that you are obligated to interact with, talk to, communicate with on a daily basis, interact with, and you can't get away, but you don't want to. So this is where that choice comes in. If you have the choice to run, do you do it, or do you say, no, I took this on. It's my responsibility to see it out. I took on the challenge of being a parent. And if you are a good parent, you realize the word challenge doesn't even align with that role. I'm a father. It is not a challenge to be a father. I accept the role fully, and I love it. It is my choice. I could at any point in time say, I refuse to do this any longer. And that's our choices as human beings. Is it fair to the child that I had promised and reassured and made commitments to all of a sudden turn around and say, no, it's all about me. I'm going to think about myself. I'm no longer in a leadership role for you. I no longer want to be a part of nurturing you in this world. What kind of outcomes do we get from that? What does that say about us? Yet we see it every single day in society. We see it all over social media. People can run from whatever they want at any point in time, and in a lot of cases are praised for it because it's freedom. And freedom for one person is a lack of freedom for another. And ultimately, we have to understand the long-term effects of running away from people that we are obligated to nurture, that we are obligated to lead. Because I always look at nurturing as lead. Because it's real easy to look at that word and automatically people think, okay, mothers. They think breastfeeding. They think coddling and reassuring and pat on the back. You rarely see in any, especially in today's world, in the times of social media, you rarely see the man version, the male role being identified with nurturer. That's much more of a feminine terminology. But really, it's only feminine if you choose to look at it that way. What does nurturing have to do with any sex at all? In fact, it's more of a species thing. There's animals every single day out in the world that are nurturing their offspring, male and female alike. We all have a role to play. And that's a good word. Role. What is our role? Sex has nothing to do with it. If two people can bring a life into this world, why does one person get viewed as the nurturer and the male gets looked at it as the provider? Now, could that be the case? Of course it is. But why identify it that way? Why not look at it as an equal? When it comes to nurturing, we're both leaders. We have our roles. Of course, the male, we're more providers, and females, they are the more nurturing type, I guess if you want to look at it that way. But really, she's providing as well, and he is nurturing as well. It's just what percentages are you going to put on those in any particular time? But really, what's the difference? Bottom line, to provide, you have to be a leader, and to nurture, you have to be a leader. So essentially, they're the same damn thing. We are asked every single day, regardless if we even speak to anyone, to be leaders, to answer the call. And it's very simple. We go back to the leadership of ourselves. We are asked to nurture every single day. Every single moment of your life, you're nurturing. Regardless if you were alone, I always go back to this example. Even if you were alone in Antarctica all by yourself, you are still nurturing. because you're nurturing yourself. You're leading yourself. You are understanding and coming to terms with who you are. In order to do that, you have to nurture. You have to nurture your mind, your body, your heart, and your soul. You are paying very close attention to what you need. And just as you can be a great nurturer to others, you can be a great nurturer to yourself. And if you are a horrible nurturer to others, you can be a horrible nurturer to yourself. We see people self-sabotage themselves all the time. We see people who have addictions, self-imposed addictions. They choose to do things that are not so healthy for them. We see people with bad eating habits. We see people do all these things, but they're great nurturers to others. Now, this is where things get a little different when it comes to the mindset of a nurturer. Because we do often see people who have extreme selfishness when it comes to how they nurture other people. Meaning they are not selfish at all when it comes to nurturing other people. But when it comes to themselves, they are very selfish. They want to do anything that they want to do for themselves, but in return, they're not doing it to other people. But others are seeing their behavior, so it's having a reverse effect than they're even trying to display. For example, if you are walking around telling people not to smoke and you're chain smoking, yes, you're nurturing by saying, hey, I think you should not smoke. I'm not even going to give you money to smoke. You're not getting a cigarette from me, but I'm going to keep smoking right in front of you. Are you helping that person not think about smoking? Or are you hurting them? Are you showing them a bad example? And that's just a little example we see every day of people who will go out of their way to help other people do certain things, yet they're not doing it themselves. So people are looking at you like, well, if you're saying this about this one thing, what other things are you saying I should do that you're not doing yourself? Now, regardless if that has anything to do with that individual, the point is that it's a distraction from the obvious. Should you be telling me not to do something when you're doing it? That makes a leader ineffective. That makes nurturing ineffective. You are wanting from others and expecting of others what you are not even doing for yourself. Lead by example. It just doesn't work. And one of the primary concerns we have in life is inconsistency, the lack of discipline, the lack of control that we have for ourselves. But we know enough. We know there's enough there to say, hey, I know what I should be doing. I know what I should be doing. I'm telling other people not to do it. I'm telling other people to do it if it's healthy. But I'm not doing it. Now, what's the problem there? Is there a lack of true fundamental value that I have for myself that I look at it and expect from others? And I think one of the primary reasons that these things happen is one thing that has been lacking in that person to begin with, and that's just not enough focus on themselves first. To be a good leader, you obviously have to figure out what you're good at leading at. We can't all be great at everything. Each of us have very unique skill sets. We all have things that we're extremely good at that the people around us may not be as good at. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And that's one of the easiest ways to finding out exactly who you are as a person. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? What do you have to offer? And how effective can you be in life if you haven't done the homework on yourself first to know what you can positively give to others as far as leadership goes, as far as parenting, as far as being a boss, as far as being a pastor or a teacher, anything that has a leadership role? Are you capable of doing these things if you haven't done the homework on yourself? If you're not nurturing yourself, how can you expect to nurture others in a positive way? You can't. And that's another thing about nurturing is there a such thing as negative nurturing? You always look at nurturing as a positive. So if you see a parent with a child and they're doing everything great except one thing, they do everything great as far as nurturing goes, except one thing that they do that is really bad, that they allow the child to do. Is nurturing a percentile thing? And this thing is like, this is one of the things that I always, when I talk to people, I find interesting, is that there are people, we like to put numbers on things. Statistics is a huge thing when it comes to human beings. We like numbers. We like to know how many people are doing this and how many people failed, how many people succeeded. And where we get to is when we're talking about nurturing, is nurturing only nurturing if it's 100%, or can you be a good nurturer and dip below the average, quote unquote, if we were talking about terms of giving a grade? Is it acceptable to be a C+ nurturer? And what does that mean? That means you're average at nurturing. And if that's the case, do these people know that they're average? Now, this is just hypothetical metaphor types of thinking, because this is all subjective. There's no way you can really gauge this, because it's based on people's judgments and opinions on it. But it's interesting to think about. Is there a such thing as a 100% nurturer? And if there was, what would that look like? And how could we get there? And I think about that all the time. With myself, it's been a nurturer for my son and for my family. A provider, a leader. Again, nurturing is it's all encompassed. We're all doing these things together. And I think to myself, what can you do to move that needle up a little? What can you do to get that grade a little higher? And I've always thought about things that way, is that as a provider, what can I do to be better? And sometimes it's a head scratcher, because you feel you're limited in how you can grow, because so much of it is wrapped up in who you are. People can teach you all day long, hey, you should do this when it comes to being a nurturer. You know, you should make sure you listen, you understand, you be patient, you can do this. But that's just cookie cutter stuff if you haven't done the work on yourself to even see, are you capable of doing these things? Are you capable of having compassion and empathy when it calls on it, when you're not in a great emotional state, but you have to do it anyway? And if you're struggling with that, what does that mean? If you're struggling to have empathy with your children, what does that say about you? Not that it's good or bad, but it says something. And doesn't that require some moments to try to figure out, at least, hey, let me take a step back, detach, and figure out, this conversation isn't going so well. What role am I playing? Is this helping in my average of nurturing my child? And you can add that to any leadership position. If the workplace, you know, if you have a congregation, if you're at a church, if you're in the military and you have your troops, how can you be a better leader? It always goes back to you. The lack of understanding of how to nurture will always go back to you. And again, the world does not owe us understanding of why we are able to lead ineffectively or effectively based on what has popped up prior in our life. If you're not leading successfully, the excuse of, well, nobody did this for me in the past, is unacceptable, because you accepted the challenge. You chose to answer the call to take on a leadership role. Otherwise, don't lead. Don't lead until you're ready. That would be the easiest way of looking at it, I would guess. How do you know when you're ready? Odds are you'll know because it'll be happening naturally around you. I didn't think about this stuff. I never thought about being a leader until I was one. In fact, I remember looking up to people in high school and I was always somewhat popular. I wasn't one of the greatest popular. I wasn't a star football player and basketball player. I was good at a lot of different things. I was one of those kids. I could go in the lunchroom and I did this all the time. On Monday, I would sit with my band friends. Tuesday, I would sit with my basketball friends. You know, Wednesday, I would sit with my African American friends. Thursday I would sit with my white friends. Friday I would sit with the yearbook club. Then Monday I would start it all over again. I was always involved with so many different things that I was involved a lot, but each one of those groups had the leaders, and I never was a leader until I got into college. And I remember somehow, because I was with all these groups, because I observed so many leaders, they imprinted on me, and I learned how to be a leader without even knowing that I was doing it. And when I got into college and I started noticing people would follow me around more, people would come to me for advice, people would point to me to do the speaking, to lead the group, to lead this session, to lead this, I suddenly knew, wow, I never asked to be the leader. I just became the leader. And then as years went on, I fell out of that role again. Somewhere along the line, I lost it. I wasn't a leader anymore. I got into my 30s and was married, and I realized I lost all my leadership qualities. No one was following me. And it had nothing to do with what I was doing for others. It had everything to do with what I was doing for myself. I wasn't answering the call for myself. I started telling other people to do things that I wasn't doing. I started falling off and not leading by example. No one wants to follow a leader who doesn't have leadership qualities, and it happens naturally. And I didn't realize it. And then in 2017, when I decided, well, I didn't really decide, it just, again, naturally, I just kind of woke up, quote unquote, and realized I had not been doing what I should have been doing. I have lost myself somehow. And now all of a sudden again, after a few years, the leadership qualities came back, and now I'm back in a leadership position. It's about answering the call. It's about understanding who you are first. If we don't nurture ourselves, the rest of it doesn't matter. The masses doesn't matter if the single person is in chaos. The peace of the masses doesn't matter if your internal struggle is ripping you apart. So we have to start with ourselves first. We have to understand what our purpose is. We have to have values and boundaries and principles. Otherwise, we have nothing to hold the water. If you want to drink, you just don't take something out of nothing. You have to have something to put it in. And if you don't, you're drinking it right out of the sink or the hose. Not harder to drink, isn't it? You're going to waste a lot of it. We have to always start with ourselves. Are we nurturing ourselves, and do we even really understand what that means? And what role, again, as far as percentages go, are we obligated to be leaders? Is that something that is a part of our lives that we are called upon to do? Or is it just a phase? Because it can be. There are people that I have talked to, that I've known, that they needed to be leaders for a short amount of time, just for what they needed to do, and then they went away. We're going to talk about Cincinnatus, the person, the emperor, in episode 12 of phase 2, and how this concept of leading when you have to, when you're called upon to answer the call and lead when you have to, is so important. Because it is. Sometimes we just have to stand up, put our chin in the air, put our shoulders back, and get after it, and be the leader we're expected to be. And when we're completed our objective, when we have done what we were called to do, then we can go back and start focusing on ourselves again. And I've always felt like that. That's why I was in and out of leadership, because I'm called to leadership when I'm expected to be a leader. And it happens without me even thinking about it. I know it's time to step up when it's time to step up. It's easier said than done. No one says that it's easy. But it can be if you understand yourself. Or at least it can be easier. There are some people that lead so effortlessly that you can tell that it is who they are. And that's the journey. Trying to find out who we are first and nurturing ourselves so we can in turn nurture others. Because we are going to be nurtured at some point. We are going to be led. We're being led every single day by someone, somewhere, even if we don't speak to them every single day. We are constantly being nurtured. We've been nurtured by this planet to provide life for us, oxygen. We've been nurtured all the time. You would think that concept of nurturing is something that we would talk more about, but it really is not a topic. It's not something people think about or talk about, at least not with me. I don't see people talking about this subject a whole lot. And I think because it comes along with this connotation that nurturing just means taking care of a person, place, or a thing, just maintaining and doing the things that we're asked to do. But it has to be far deeper than that, because we look at the outcomes, which is where the power lies with all this. The outcomes. What is the point of nurturing if the outcomes are negative? Does that in turn make the nurturing a negative thing? Can you nurture negatively? The answer to that is really up to each individual. This topic is not about telling you or me telling myself 100% this is the way to do it, because nurturing is subjective. It's something that we all can look at and understand that it has a different meaning for ourselves at different points in our lives. It's constantly fluctuating. And we can look back in our memories, depending on what we're going through at the moment, we can look back in any memory and say we were nurtured great. And then a year later, look at that same memory and say, now that I think about it, I was nurtured poorly. That's how fragile it is. That's how important it is. Leadership is huge when it comes to that. It's a razor's edge. We can be in the mindset that we're doing a great job at the moment and look back at 10 years from that moment and understand and realize, wow, I was totally off base with that. But at the moment, at the time, and I know I went through this again when I was in my 30s, I thought I was the greatest leader in the world. I was piss poor at it. It's because I was trying too hard. I wasn't doing the work on myself. I was trying too hard to be a leader, not trying nearly hard enough to be a leader for myself. Providing for others, but not providing for myself. Leading others, not leading myself. Doesn't work. And that's where the question lies. How does that affect your life? Are you a true nurturer? Maybe they're one of those A+ nurturers. Whatever that means. But we know when we see it, we feel like. I feel like we did a poll. If we asked a bunch of people, everyone would have their own idea of what they believe nurturing is. Whatever that means for you, your A+ nurturer mindset, what does that mean for you? Are you doing it? Are you leading by example? Are you nurturing and being positive with your nurturing? Or is someone going to look back and say, my leader at this point in time, even though it looked good at the moment, wasn't practicing what he or she was preaching? Whether it was intentful or not, they were not practicing what they were preaching, and it had an effect on me, positively or negatively. Consequences. Ownership and accountability. Self-worth, self-love, self-respect, self-discipline. All these things makes us who we are. All these things gives us the tools we need to lead in our own unique ways for the people we are obligated to lead for, to provide for, and to nurture. And if we choose to answer the call, we are choosing to try to get the best grade possible as that nurturer. Inherently, I think we all are great at it. We just got to open up the box and get to work. Pledge with me. I am the strongest person I know. I am alive for a reason. I pledge to stand on my values. I pledge to set and reinforce healthy boundaries. I pledge to keep pushing forward. I am not a victim. I am not without purpose. I pledge to continue to create the life I want. I pledge to grow beyond my current self. I pledge to commit to myself unconditionally because I am the strongest person I know. I will always be the strongest person I know. I pledge to continue to create and, if need be, recreate the blueprint of my life. I pledge to accept and face any challenge and obstacle that comes my way because I am the strongest person I know. I pledge I will remain who I am here and now and going forward because I am the strongest person I know. This is your day. You are here now. These are your moments. You own them. You are brave, bold, powerful. You do believe in yourself. You know you have more in the tank. You know the glass is half full. There's still more room for improvement. There is no end. Believe, believe, believe in yourself. Trust yourself. Trust that you can do whatever it takes to accomplish whatever you want from life. You don't procrastinate. You don't embellish. You don't lie. You are true to yourself always. Knowledge is in your mind. Peace is in your heart. Balance is in your body. Purpose is in your soul. You are greatness. The sky is not the limit. You have purpose, fulfilling, intentful purpose. You are here for a reason. You are unique. You are self-love, self-discipline, self-respect, self-control. You have self-awareness. You are joy, peace, and happiness. You are freedom, and yet connected to every person, place, and thing in the universe. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Learn, laugh, and level up.